This is the this is the first alumni panel for EDCO students. This is really the higher ed student affairs panelists for today, and then next Thursday is more so K through 12 canceling, of course with the PPS. So my name is Desiree McNeil. I am the graduate student assistant here at Laurie College Student Success Center. And my assistant today, I'll pass on to Marcella so then she can introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's so nice to see students who are part of the program with us. So we're in community, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy talking to learning more about Manny. So please feel free to ask questions. He's traveled this journey, and I'm sure we're all going to learn something new. So thank you for being here.
Yes. And so we're gonna go ahead and get started, and feel free to use the chat. Really this part of this panelist portion and presentations for you all to ask any questions that you might have about higher ed or student affairs or anything in the field related to canceling. So this is gonna be great. So I want to introduce Emmanuel. Go ahead, Emmanuel, go ahead and say hello and introduce yourself, and then I'm gonna read a little bit about him and all his accomplishments, and then we'll get started.
Of course. So my name is Emanuel Melgarejo, but I do go by Manny. So that's why everybody's calling me Manny. And I used to work at San Jose State as well. So that's why a lot of people there still might know me as Manny. And also your chair, is it chair? No, dean?
Yeah, department chair.
Department chair. Dr. Manny was actually my faculty advisor when I was there doing my master's.
Yes. So, and Dr. Minna, as we all know, she's amazing. She's really great. So that is amazing how you had her as an advisor. That's crazy. So, all right. So a little bit about Emmanuel is he is the assistant director for student organization and leadership office at California State University, Sacramento. He, as well as an adjunct faculty at American River College. Prior to his current leadership position, his work history consists of serving as the senior career counselor and experience learning coordinator at Sacramento State Career Center, along with other counseling positions at San Jose State University, such as a admissions counselor, EOP advisor, and academic advisor. He holds a bachelor's degree in community and regional development with a double concentration in organizational management and education from UC Davis. Ooh, I love UC Davis. He refined his knowledge with a master's degree in education with a concentration, of course, now as they call it, counseling guidance, but it used to be called counseling and student personnel from, of course, SJSU. Where he focused his studies in underrepresented student education models utilizing mentoring. In his 13 years of experience working in higher education in areas of admissions, educational opportunity programs, academic advising, and career, he has trained over 30 counseling professionals that are now working throughout the state and country. Woo, that's great. He also mentored over 30 first-generation students through their first year in college and at a four-year university. Manny strongly believes in the power of mentoring and education, which is why he continues to serve as a mentor for mentoring programs such as Puente Program, You Mentor, and Student Affairs Leaders of Tomorrow. And so I'm pretty sure you're just getting started, right? That's just a little bit... So that is a little bit of a little background of what Manny has and what he currently is doing. And so, since we don't have a huge group here, I want to go ahead and start, Manny, asking you a little questions, and then I'm going to go ahead and pass it to open the floor to anyone who would like to start asking any questions. It can be professional development. This is a great also opportunity to network. So, and I'm gonna also post your LinkedIn, a link to your LinkedIn profile also on here. Great. So, yeah. So let me go ahead and ask you some questions. And the first question is, what brought you into this field / working setting? So like, what kind of brought you into higher ed and wanting to work in student affairs?
Of course. So I think for me, it was definitely, it's the power of storytelling. So I really believe in that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. So actually I was going towards engineering. So I did actually 2.5 years of engineering. I did a lot of math and science. And I think for me, one of the things that happened was, I really struggled with that. And I really struggled in that, being really connected to who I was and what I really want. And I was still was dealing with, what a lot of first generation students deal with, which is like, what does my mom want me to do? What does my parents want me to do? How do I make them proud? Oh, the only way to make them proud is if I become an engineer or maybe a lawyer or whatever it is, that career that, is put on a pedestal. And so that was one of the things that I was kind of moving towards. But what I started noticing is my world around me, and which was my world around me, the people that were impacting me were counselors, the counselors that were coaching me, helping me get from one point to the next point to the next point, because it is something that we don't know our map. We don't know how to get to college. And then once you get there, it's like, oh, how do I finish? And then once you finish, what do I do next? And then you get into your career. How do I navigate my career? And it's something that continues to happen. And so for me, I started listening to my world around me, and I felt like, all the people that I gravitate towards are counselors. So then I started thinking like, well, maybe I should look into that, because I'm already I enjoy working with people, students. I gravitate to those things. I like doing those type of work. And so I started, just immersing myself in those areas. And then one thing led to another, to another. And that's kind of been my journey, just going from one thing to another, just by experience, and just wanting to learn more, wanting to gain more knowledge in these areas. And to be honest, I was actually first thinking I was going to go into high school counseling. That was my path. And actually, before I ended up doing that, I got hired as an EOP coordinator for UC Davis. And that's where I had the first taste of higher ed, which I realized, oh my God, this is way better. I don't have to deal with parents,
Yeah.
The parents sometimes they come down at you going like you X, Y, and Z, and you're like, no, we need Johnny to do X, Y, and Z still. And, and so I realized that was more in line with what I wanted to do. And so it has always been something I was passionate about in terms of doing education. So that's how in my past 13 years, I've been doing all that.
No, that's great. That's great. Sometimes it's always like that, where you started off with one thing and now you're in a whole different field. Because we figured out that wasn't for us. So I thought I wanted to be an occupational therapist, and that was not for me. Let's just say that. So thank you for sharing. And so another question I have for you is, what has been the greatest challenge so far in your career, and how did you handle it, or how would you have done it differently?
Oh man, it's it's
It's a lot of
really
layers.
yeah, it's a loaded question, because I'm not going to say my career has been like amazing, and that I've been, there's been a lot of struggles, and then some of the struggles, it's easy to look at the moment, is to look at it and say, if I would have gone that, I wouldn't have taken that job, and I would have not done that. But then again, you keep going on this path, and then you realize, wow, I learned so much from that experience. Even though it was negative, I learned so much from that experience that, guess what? It happened again. And guess what? This time I knew how to handle it, because I already been through it. And so it's really, in terms of that, I can't really say that, and I'm not the type to live in regret. I'm more about, we make the best decisions that we can with the knowledge that we have. And, we're grateful for whatever learning we get from that experience. And yeah, I'll tell you that I've experienced almost everything from one, managing, being in a toxic environment, and to the point where you end up deciding, what, my mental health is more important and I'm walking away from this. And so, you deal with that. And then those are the type of situations where you look back at the moment, you look at it and go like, man, why did I take this job? Now I'm unemployed. But then you fast forward and say, wow, that taught me so much. And then you see it from a mile away coming, oh, I know where this is going, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to navigate this way this time. And so you wouldn't be able to do that unless you have that experience. And so I am grateful for all the tough parts, which is navigating. I think that's been the hardest part, is just navigating as a first generation, because what a lot of people don't understand is you're a first generation student, but then when you get your degree, you're no longer a first generation student. You're now a first generation professional. And now you got a whole new range of things that you have to navigate and learn. And again, just like the first generation students, you can't go to mom and dad and ask them, hey, how do I do this? Or how do I navigate that? No, you have to now find your mentors. And why I believe a lot in mentors is because those are the people who have helped me. And I try to do the same thing. That's why I put on a mentor, because even now, this Friday, I'm meeting up with my former intern, who now she's a professional. She's at Boise State. She's a counselor over there. And she's over here saying, I need to talk to you. I was like, oh God, what's happening now?
Yeah. Wow,
but I'm here as a resource. I'm grateful for the professionals that I'm putting out there that do truly care.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Manny, for sharing that. And as we're all EDCO students. I think Janice, she just said in the chat that she recently got accepted. So welcome to the program. That was amazing. And so all the advice, all this is really good insight. And okay, I'm gonna open up for questions. And so Caitlin, have a question for you. And it is, what is the day-to-day like? What are your everyday duties, especially since you are, the social director of an office, and then also you are an adjunct faculty at a community college. So I think, is American River College, is that community college?
Correct. It is.
So yeah, like what does your day-to-day look like for either one of the jobs or both? And what is your everyday duties?
Of course, yeah. So in terms of in my current position, it's really, and it's not just this position, but all of them, that's the beauty of higher ed, or student affairs, is that every day is different. So in terms of certain days, I have tons of appointments. I still do appointments with students. Right now, in being students orgs and leadership, I meet with students to help them like book space, because they have to do it through our office. They can't do it themselves because they're just a student organization, so they need that support. So they do that through us. We also kind of serve as like guides when they're trying to do different events. I also oversee our leadership, so our leadership curriculum right now. And so that one is really interesting, because right now we're looking into doing an overhaul on it, and really, really connecting it to what students. So what this means is meetings with, faculty who's trying to help us, meeting with our own team, looking at different components. So a lot of this different sessions to really understand. And we also do like group work to help us kind of see where does this go? What do we want students to get out of our leadership program? Because it is based on the social change model for leadership development. So if you want to look that up, it's really cool. I think these are skill sets that students don't get, in undergrad, and they would really benefit from. And so it has my day's full of meetings. Today is a special day because I got to spend a good portion of it actually partaking in a young males of color conference. So that was really great. Sometimes you have things like that come to our campus and you get to partake, or maybe you might go somewhere else. So every day is kind of a mixture of different different situations, meetings. I also oversee a little bit of conduct. So right now I do student organization conduct. So I might have to, bring in a few students to have conversations with them on what's happening, what's going on, why were these rules violated, and then basically issue out whatever is the verdict. So they do a little mixture of everything, and in terms of American River College, that one's like day and night, because with them, it's very structured. So it's kind of like my day starts, and guess what? Start with an appointment. And normally they'll try to mix it up a little bit. So you might do, okay, one appointment, and then it's separated by maybe doing an hour drop-in. So you're doing drop-ins, and then another appointment. Or sometimes it's 2 back-to-back appointments, then you could do some drop-ins. Or maybe if they have just tons of appointments, it's appointments all day. So you're just back-to-back appointments. And these are pretty structured in terms of, they're structured in terms of scheduling, but in terms of the conversations, this is where the diversity comes in. Like you might be talking to one student who's like, here, I need an ed plan. Then you're talking to another student, I need to figure out what to do with my life. And I'm like, wow, okay, I'll try to do it in an hour. And then you get the next student who's like, I don't even know why I'm here. They just told me to make an appointment with a counselor, and that's because they're lost. They're new. They're maybe their first semester. So there's just a wide range of students in terms of their needs. And with community college, you're kind of a one-stop shop. So you kind of are whatever they need. So it's you got to keep up with a lot of stuff. Sometimes you're kind of helping the student like double check that they have everything to transfer to a university, or maybe they're coming in from a university, so they just give you their transfer. They're all here. What counts? And then you're like, I need to evaluate this, and I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. So, it's a wide range of different needs with the community college. So, yeah.
Oh, good question, Caitlin. I have a question. So yes, so for your adjunct canceling faculty, right? So you're considered, well, I noticed that most community college counselors, they're considered either, well, I guess the titles are different. Some of them considered faculty, or some of them are just adjunct counselors. So how was the process of applying for a community college role as a counselor? How was that process? What did it look like for you, or what advice would you give, maybe someone who is looking to become a community college counselor?
And I coach a lot of my students, because a lot of them, I call that the holy grail of our industry, because the difference is here at the university, their staff and faculty, they're separated. Counselors are on the staff side. At the community college, counselors are actually on the faculty side. And so they're actually all considered faculty. So that means they can teach classes if they choose to, or if it's a requirement of the institution. And so in terms of going for that, they're highly sought after. And so that means you have to be resilient and really want to show that you want that. And I say that because it's one of those things that it's hard. It takes time to get in there. And most likely your first time applying, or your first time, you're not going to get in. But that's okay. You got to keep going at it. Most counselors that I know, they applied multiple times. And at some point, eventually because if you continue to improve, then they have to say yes at some point. And just showing that you really want that it's really important, because they get so many people that just like, that all just apply. And it's like, no, we want people who really want to be here. So over here in Los Rios, it's a little bit more saturated. So over here, they say, we won't take you seriously until we see your name for the 10th time. So that should tell you something. Wow. Yeah, that you really, really want it. And so
Mhm,
it is
mhm.
something that it's something that you want to practice. You also want to practice your interview, because your interview is always one. It has about anywhere from 8 to 12 people on your panel, and it's normally about 45 minutes. It can either consist of also maybe a presentation anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, or it could also have a scenario where they want you to role play a situation that you need to deal with in front of everybody watching you. And then on top of that, you also have a writing prompt that you get, like maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and then you write, your response in that moment. How would you respond? This could be anything from either your thoughts on like COVID, and what COVID has caused a lot of detriment throughout the campus or throughout education. What do you think are the needs for in terms of technology for the institution, or something like that? Or it could be something very, very specific, like you have to respond to a student, you have to reach out to the student who is on probation. How would you do that? So it could be any of that, and they're really looking at your approach to reaching out to students. They're looking at your ability to communicate in writing. Can you make that connection with students and feel welcoming to have them actually respond to your email? So they're looking at all those components. So it's, as an adjunct, adjunct just means you're part-time, and then once you're a counselor, you're full-time. So adjuncts, they put them through something similar, just
Mhm.
not as, I think my experience has always been that the adjuncts, they do the interview, they may do the scenario, but normally that's about it. They don't do the writing sample. I haven't really seen that for adjuncts, but it could be different in different places. But I have interviewed in the San Jose area, and I've only experienced it through full-time positions that I applied to, but not through adjunct, which I was an adjunct at Gavilan College. So, and so I think it's pretty similar. So,
Yeah. No, that's super helpful, and I know some students couldn't come, and that's why we have this recording. I know we have a few people in the EDCO program currently who are seeking, striving to become a community college counselor. As for myself, and so I always like to pick folks' brains and experience, and like what advice they can give. So thank you, that was really helpful. And I just want to open up to anyone else who would have any questions for Manny. It can be from how was the job search after you graduated? Like kind of what was your process? Did you start early, not early, before you graduated or not? But I do want to open the floor to anyone who would like to ask any more questions. You can also put them in the chat. If no, that's okay. And we might not go into 5 only because we only have a small group of folks, and so we might finish a little early. But I do have one more question. This can be our second to last question. So as we have some people who might be graduating soon. And so the folks who are going to be graduating soon, either this semester or next semester, what advice would you give them in terms of kind of preparing for post-graduation? And should the grad students be looking for a job during their last semester of grad school, so then they have something lined up when they graduate? So kind of like, what any advice and tips that you can possibly give grad students, and maybe you should possibly share your experience.
correct. And let me ask you this question so I can better answer your question. Do you all do internships?
Yes, we
Okay.
all do internship for the program, definitely. Yeah.
But a requirement now.
Well, for PPS, it's a requirement. For if you're just doing the MA, is 292 is not required. However, I'm just doing my MA. However, I'm one of those folks that said no. I know I worked at a community college, so I knew that to be competitive enough, I need all the experience. So in different areas. So for me, I've been doing field work also. So even though
Okay.
it's not required.
So that hasn't changed. So I think that's one of the biggest things, and what I've seen that really has changed from when I was there, is that now there's opportunities to intern, and I can't stress enough the power of being an intern at these, especially at a community college. If you're trying to go to a community college, intern at a community college. If you're trying to, be in higher ed, intern. There's so many different positions, and that's what's going to provide you that mentorship. That mentorship is super key. That's what I was actually going to say. If you're thinking of going to community college, start mentoring, get someone to mentor you into getting into those areas, because the knowledge that they have in terms of how they operate is valuable, because else you're going to have to do it trial by error, and it's going to take you multiple, even double the time that it should be taking you to get in there. And that's cut significantly if you have someone who's coaching you and telling you this is what you need to do. Simple things like, what should you use to apply to a community college position? Should you use a CV or should you use a resume? And a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to submit a resume. And you go, well, would you submit a resume to a faculty position? And they're like, oh no, you should use a resume. Well, guess what? Counseling positions are faculty positions. So that's an easy, you should be using a CV. And so they don't see a CV, guess what? They're moving on to the next person. So simple things like that, can save you, maybe getting through that initial screening from HR and getting to at least the committee to see your application. You might not get a interview, or maybe you might, you never know the competition. But, little tips like that are valuable because they can really help you in multiple different arenas. And so that's what I would really recommend, is having, a mentor to really help you with whatever is your strategies, or whatever areas you're trying to go into, because there's different things you can do depending on where you're going. And then there's also current times, which I'm a little bit kind of, I don't know how I feel about it, because I'm from my career background, I've done that for like 6.5 years. I'm pretty connected to the industry. And right now it is, there's so many jobs out there, it's ridiculous. There's so much out there. And that's causing a problem where now you can get away with a lot of things that in tougher competition, you probably wouldn't be able to get away. And so I feel like it's indirectly teaching bad interviewing, bad application, professional strategies. It's just causing like bad ones, because people are going like, well, I got this job and this is the resume I used. And then you're going like, well, that's because they're a little bit desperate just to fill the spot. But if this was a different situation where it's actual competition, you need to make sure your resume is saying what you wanted to say, and that's just not happening right now. I know I've gotten some individuals who are like, they're all like, I don't understand why I didn't. This is the resume I used to get this job. I was like, well,
yeah.
You
kind of also have to like really polish your resume like every year, honestly.
Correct.
And make it up to date. And so like I hear you talk about like mentorship, even if, let's say, you're not going through the higher ed realm or even K through 12, but the key is like having a mentor. And a lot of us in the EDCO program do have a field work, and having that mentor maybe helping us through that job process ahead of time before we graduate. I think that's also key. And yeah, I definitely agree. The job market is a little different. And Marcel, I have a question for you. This can be our last one. Did COVID change your canceling mission, or vision, or lens? If yes, how so? It's in the chat too if you need to reference it.
So in terms of COVID, oh my God, has it changed everything? It flipped everything upside down. I think it gave notice to the inequities that our students are going through, regardless of what area you work in. You can see those inequities. Things from like access to technology. You go backtrack to March of 2020. Everything just like all of a sudden stopped, and then students were like, well, can I still come to campus to use the internet? And we're like, no. Well, it's not that we don't want you, but basically there's nobody there, and it's more of a safety thing. So it just really gave way to what people don't have at their homes, like what and how much they rely on like financial aid and all of these different components. And so it gave way to really understanding a lot of what just the inequities. I can't say, I don't know what else to say, but there's a difference between being able to use your financial aid to actually put food on your table, and then once that's gone, you don't have anything. Or technology, not having access to a computer because you were using the school computers to do all your homework, and now it's closed and you don't have that access. So there's those components. There's also mental health. Like, oh my God, what mental health? It's I think it's skyrocketed. People are and the challenges is with these communities that don't use these services. They're the ones who need it the most, and they're not getting these services because maybe there's some stigma. And so it's really breaking this down. So there's all these different components that are just COVID perpetuated those situations, and now you're having to deal with that. And then there's also like the academic, for us as counselors, we're at the front lines looking at these students, working with them, and then you're kind of going like, okay, let's think about March, because we need to be real about this, that everybody's affected, even faculty. So faculty went from, I teach biology hands-on, now I need to teach it through a screen. How do I do that? There's going to be some residual loss of learning in these shifts that were happening midway through the semester, or students who just got a pass. But what does that pass mean? Like, that pass doesn't equate to a certain amount of knowledge, because we were really like stuck. I remember when everything closed down, I was like, I just got a message saying, don't come to campus and we will send you technology. And for a whole week, I was just sitting in my house going like, what do I do? Like, I don't have my computer, I don't have anything. How am I supposed to work with students? What is happening? And so all of this is going to have an effect with students' learnings, and even still with the past 2 years. And we're not going to see those effects until now, current times. Like, we're going to start seeing as, students transferring in, if they don't meet the requirements, maybe they're not at the reading level or the writing level. Who knows? We don't know how these effects are going to translate later on. And, we need to be ready to, how do we support these students? Because it's not just a responsibility of our faculty, but everybody, even as counselors, we need to, how are we going to support them? Because there's just so many effects to this. And then you already know about the career component I already shared, that's causing like unrealistic, expectations right now. But then on a different side is, I think in terms of career, it's like it really shaped the way that people think of work. I think right now, if you haven't heard about this, hopefully, and if you haven't, maybe look into it, is the Great Resignation. And I think that is one of the things like you start thinking about it. And it's funny because my HR department came to talk to me and say, hey, what have you heard of this Great Resignation? And they're all like, I'm like, yeah, I've read a bunch of articles on this. This is amazing, you know. And she's like, why is this amazing? I was like, because people are waking up and saying like, what, you know, I just almost could have died, maybe, you know, if you got COVID. And it made you reflect on what's important to me. How do I want to live whatever, you know, days and years I have of life? Do I really want to be doing it at a job that I don't really like or that I'm not passionate about? You know, it was funny because once that happened, I was having all these meetings with alumni who were like, oh, I'm a teacher, they don't pay me enough, you know, I don't know why I'm here. I should be doing this. What do I need to do this? And I said, well, actually nothing. You can go do whatever you want to do, you know. And that's the beauty of education, is that we always think that, oh, I studied counseling, so I must only be able to be a counselor, but that's not true. You can go into anything you want to do. You can go into like starting your own business. And I always tell students, it's like, does Mark Zuckerberg have a business degree? No, he doesn't even have a degree, but he still started a business. So your degree does not dictate what you can do in life. It's actually you dictate that. What do you want to do? And you know, one of the things with Sacramento is that we are in the capital, and our largest employer in this region is the state. And the state has jobs in almost anything you can think of. And a lot of them, you know, all they care about is, can you communicate? Can you think critically? And that's all I care about. Whatever degrees you have, it's good that you got them, but you know, these are the things that we care about. And so, you know, my wife actually, she works for Office of Emergency Services, Cal OES, and you know that, you know, she travels all over the place with different emergencies that are happening. So when COVID started, you know, she was over there handling COVID sites and stuff like that. And with her, she has a social work degree, and then she's been like, I should go get another degree, and everybody goes like, well, what for? Because she's been moving up, going into different positions. But it's really, with the state, they value more experience than your degrees, because they believe like your degree can only teach you so much, but it's hands-on experience and certifications that really show you how to do your job. And so that goes a long way with them.
Yeah, well, perfect. Yeah, agree. Experience is key, and that's why our field work is definitely helping all of us with that experience piece. And to end on a positive note, what is one thing you do for self-care? How do you take care of yourself in the midst of, you know, still this kind of ongoing pandemic, and you know, also with your job as a part-time faculty counselor, and then also as your role at Sac State? What do you do in terms of taking care of yourself, and you know, what do your self-care looks like?
Ooh, what does my self-care look like? For me, I don't know. I'm a very simple person, so I'm all about like, you know, let's just watching TV, just an opportunity to disengage from everything. I like going to the movies. You know, it's one of those things that I really enjoyed, and I think for me, growing up, it was you know, growing up low income, the only time you got to go to the movies was when it was your birthday, you know, as a gift. But you know, I think those are the kind of things that now, you know, I like to do on a regular basis. But you know, I try to pick up different hobbies, you know. Well, let's put it this way. My wife picks up more hobbies and then she abandons them and they just become mine. So I do a lot of speed bikes. So we have a beautiful, what is it, like 25-mile bike trail here in Sacramento, the American River Trail, and it is amazing. Like, you know, it's amazing to wake up super early, like the sun's not even out and you're already, And I'd like to take a train up to Folsom, and then you ride that with the sun coming up. Oh man, it's so amazing. And just being on your bike and just going, you know, and normally at that time there isn't that many people, so it's really just you and the road. And if there's creatures out there, maybe some foxes or whatever, coyotes, but that's rare. But there's sometimes vultures, and they're like opening their wings trying to get some rays and stuff, so it's super cool. It's lots of nature. That's one of my hobbies that I like to do. It started off being my wife's hobby, but then she abandoned it, and then I just do it. Same thing with bocce ball. I joined a bocce ball team. If you don't know bocce ball, look it up. I didn't know what it was either until they're all like, "Do you want to be on the bocce ball team?" I was like, "I don't even know what a bocce ball is." But yeah, it's definitely older people play it, because I was just going like, oh, I'm the youngest guy here. Everybody's like 60 and up.
Wow.
But it's a lot of fun. It's so much fun, and you play, and I played for a couple leagues, and then you know, then our team wasn't really like motivated to go to games, so we kept you know, forfeiting. So I said, you know what, maybe we shouldn't be a team if we're not going to partake.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've done that. And then most recently I just we during the pandemic, we just, again, my wife's like, we should get a motorcycle. I'm like, really? Okay, sure, whatever you want. So apparently, so now we have a motorcycle. We took the classes, we go on rides, those are fun too. I just feel like it's more of a process, and less exercise and just more process. But we have highway, Jackson Highway, and it's a nice strip. A lot of bikers go on that. You know, and it's just the road, and you're catching a lot of air, and you know, it's very freeing. But those are the kind of things that I've been engaging in for self-care. And I engage in those as much as I can, especially during these times. So my wife just got deployed about a week ago to San Diego, so she's out there for a couple more weeks. So during these times, because it's just it's a lot of work being home by yourself for so long, you then crave that human interaction. So you're like, you know, trying to connect with friends. It's like, hey, you guys are still alive?
Yeah.
It's like you're back in the pandemic again.
Yeah, pre-pandemic, trying to get there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, man, for sharing all those things. Definitely just being with the nature is always a good thing. And we, especially like being in the office, always inside, it's always good to have some type of self-care activity that consists of being outside and with nature. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being our first alumni panelist for the EDCO program. Next Thursday is going to be our K through 12. We have a few K through 12 counselors. So you start off good with the higher ed and student affairs, and I'll definitely be networking, connecting with you through LinkedIn and talking about community colleges. So before we go ahead and end the Zoom, Janice, I think Janice is the last one. Do you have any questions, or you're all good? You can do thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs up is that you're good, or?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. A lot of my questions I have were answered already.
Oh, wow.
It was great listening in.
Yeah, definitely. Good having you.
Yes, and I'll ask you on LinkedIn as well.
Sounds good. Yeah, I do a lot of mentorship there. You know, I try to help. A lot of people seek me out for my resume skills, because you know, everyone's like, oh, I never had my resume reviewed. And I was
really?
Like, I'll review it. Tell me where you want to go, and I'll make sure that it does its job for where you're trying to go.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
And then Janice, if you need anything, since you are newly admitted, I'm going to go ahead and direct a chat you and put my email just in case you need anything. And that will conclude our first alumni panel of spring 2022. So thank you, Manny, so much for the insight, the tips and advice. Maybe have any question or anything, feel free to reach out to me or Marcella.
Thank
Sounds
you,
great.
everybody.
Bye.
Have a good one.